you have a great admiration for people who don't even exist? Do you know histories of fake worlds better than you know your own? Do you geek out? If so, geek out with us. Here, now. It's the Geek for All show.
Hey, it is indeed the Geek for All. Welcome back to it, and Happy New Year's, everybody. Hope you had a great New Year's Eve. I am your host, Geekmeister. With me always is Winchester.
Hello.
Today we are going to be talking about Rouge One. It's been out for now little less than a month. So spoiler alerts, because we're going to talk about this whole thing.
Although, if you don't know how it ends, you probably should rewatch the originals.
Well, yes, and just prepare for the fact that, unlike what I thought was gonna, Disney did not pull punches on this one.
No.
Which I was actually ecstatic about that they did not, because I thought they were gonna bitch out. Like, to be perfectly honest, I thought Disney was gonna bitch out on this
Someone
thing hard.
was gonna survive, and it was gonna be,
they get to go on and do the other thing.
No, everybody dies.
Everyone's fucking dead.
Nobody survives.
Tarantino style, motherfucker.
Unless they were in the original trilogy, they don't survive.
Or like in one of the later films.
Yeah, or in one of the later films, they don't survive.
Because the woman who is in charge of like the rebellion planning in Return of the Jedi is one of the key characters.
Yes.
And I can't remember the senator's name.
Yeah.
The woman they found to play, because I don't think she was a CGI.
No, the woman who played Mon Mothma is a new actress.
Yeah.
But she looks so much like her.
Exactly like her. It's ridiculous.
She played Mon Mothma in the prequels.
Right.
As well. So she already had experience with being in the world. And she knew this character, but if you look at her side by side between her and the woman who originally played her,
it's unfreaking canny.
It's insane. There was a reason they didn't have to CGI her, because they found her clone.
Yeah,
basically.
No, for real. They
once we get to a point where they start cloning actors, so when they do these revamps or these
right.
pre-sequels.
Well, I mean, I don't know though. With the way that the actual CGI is going, there might just be a point where clones are not even necessary. They can actually just
CGI him in,
which
we'll talk about.
Yeah,
later.
we'll get to that. So one of the complaints that I am hearing about is that some people felt as though the movie had moments of campiness that they didn't appreciate, which I get. Yes,
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that.
No, for sure. I feel as though a lot of the witty humor should have been left simply to K2, who was the robot in the film, played by Alan Tudyk.
So good.
So fucking good.
I am so proud of him becoming as such a voice actor. Like, he's amazing as a regular actor. We know him from Firefly.
But his voice acting is like really
has come to such a great fruition. He's been such a great voice actor the past 5 years.
Yeah,
that,
he's been doing some
phenomenal.
really phenomenal things. And then but K2 and then the Blind Warrior.
Yes.
Those should have been the only two really making as many quips as were being made throughout the film. Like they kind of did almost the same thing that I was talking about with that fight from Civil War back when we did that review. I was talking about how everybody had a quip and a lot of it was unnecessary. There was a lot of that going on in this film. There was a lot of okay, that was not. Why did they need to say it like that? Why?
Well, and a lot of it I think was Cassian was very much the Han Solo type.
Yes.
So Han Solo's quippy. And
right, but he was a different Han Solo type. He was the serious, I'm a spy, I've had to kill so many people, and I'm not happy about that, but I'm sort of ignoring my conscience.
Right. I'm quippy because I need to cover up the dark sides of my personality.
Right, but I don't know if it came across like that, at least to some people. I think I agree. I think that's where they were trying to hit that. I don't know if they always hit that mark as nicely as they could.
No.
And I'll fully admit that, and I think, they should have pulled back on some of that. Definitely did not need to give Darth Vader a dad joke.
I was so disappointed in that.
I
feel... Okay, so this is my thing with the Darth Vader thing. I thought Darth Vader was a great addition because obviously if you talk about the Death Star, you have to talk about Darth Vader. That's how it is. But I feel like the conversation that they have on... in his lair, in his lava lair... Because yes, it is that planet. They have confirmed that is that planet.
It's the same planet, and
It's
he
the
just
same
hangs
planet.
out in the fucking Fortress of Doom.
He does. They didn't transport him to a medical facility. No. They just left him.
They brought the medical facility to the
him.
planet.
So he lives on this lava planet, and the main admiral, I don't know what you would, captain?
Director. It's Director
It's
Keurig.
director?
Director
Okay.
Keurig.
Goes to pretty much tattle
Yeah, I mean, it...
on Tarkin.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. Okay, so Vader's in the film twice. I guess we'll just get him out of the way since everybody squeezed so hard at Vader.
Yeah.
Vader's in the film twice. And the first time that he's in it, Director Keurig, who is the guy who is...
He's like the antagonist
of the film
Of
in
the
a lot of
film.
ways. I mean, so is...
to put a face on the Imperial forces, that's him. He's
Right.
very much the antagonist
I mean,
to
so
Jyn
is Governor
Tarkin.
Tarkin. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
But in terms of like a personal relationship between Jyn and
yes,
her
he's the
father.
primary antagonist. Yeah, Keurig is definitely the primary antagonist, and so the first time you see Vader is in this scene where he goes to kind of like just tattle on Vader that he's like lost, like that the governor has come, that Tarek has come and like taken his like control of the Death Star away
Right.
from him. Which he does this instead of just going to the planet where like the leak of information came from.
Right.
He goes to Vader first to tattle, which makes the whole scene off of the bat very like, this didn't need to be here in the first place.
Yeah, pretty
But then the
shoehorned.
scene goes really, really well.
It
Like,
does.
you've got James Earl Jones back as like Darth Vader's voice, and you're just sitting there like, oh, this is really good. And he, like, Vader's basically kind of like, you know, letting him know, like, yes, we've seen that this fucking Death Star seems to be causing all kinds of problems. We've seen that. By the way, way to go ahead and just kind of use it on a planet without...
You realize how much power, because when you first watch, what you know about Darth Vader, just period, in terms of like from society, you know, from pop culture and everything, is that he's this amazing badass. You watch the original trilogy and he's the Emperor's dog. Like, he's the Emperor's little attack dog. He gets a little more power in this movie. In this scene, gives him a little bit more of that oomph, that like, holy shit, this guy is fucking scary.
And it's interesting, too, because if you think about the comparison, it's interesting that he goes to tattle on Vader, because Vader and the governors kind of have this weird parallel of
They do.
power where, depending on the circumstances, one or the other is in charge.
Yes. Vader has a weird position in the government.
Right, like, well, I mean,
Because
'cause it
Jedi
shouldn't
don't
take-
exist,
His-
but he's still like, he's this weird monk kind of thing.
Well, he's he's kind of
He's the weird magic
he's the
user of the
equivalent of
group.
being the head of the SS in the Nazis, you know, as the
Yes.
SS were to Hitler. They had rankings that were kind of above certain other generals and stuff, but only at certain points based on when Hitler decided it was
Right.
convenient.
I mean, yeah.
And that's sort of it's very much what Vader was
Yeah.
For the Emperor. Was just the Emperor would decide, like, no, Vader's in charge of this thing. But if the Emperor hadn't specifically stated it, there were still, like, some military generals and, like, the governors
And
were
Vader
still...
turned into the lackey.
Yeah. And so we got to see, like, that dynamic play off and everything a little bit.
Yeah.
So it made the scene, like, kind of, like, went from, like, doesn't need to be there to, all right, cool, ending with a dad joke. He chokes
was it?
him and then talks about him not choking on his aspirations.
Yes.
Emphasizing choke. You know, that was the real thing. Like, it was bad enough that there was a dad joke, but then he had to ham up the dad joke.
He
was
did.
like, James, what are you doing?
It was a very much emphasis on the choke part of it. So
I'm
it
really
almost
hoping
was
that
like,
James was
aw.
in a studio, like, it was in a sound booth for like 3 hours.
It was just
that
super
line,
tired.
and kept trying to do it subtly and do it in a way that was like acceptable. And there's just some producer like, no, but can you emphasize choke a little bit more? I want to make sure the audience gets it. I
like,
think they're
gonna
gonna
get
get
it.
it, but I want to make sure.
Yes.
I
Exactly.
feel like that was what, and I feel like
It
the
was.
scene was kind of in there, like that particular moment was in there because there was just some writer in the writer's room during like the actual script development that just kept going, but Vader's got to have a dad joke, right? Like, I
Right.
mean, we gotta give Vader a dad joke. Yeah, Steve, we'll give Vader a dad joke. No, seriously though, don't give up on that dad joke. Got to do that dad joke for Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they didn't expect it to actually go through. and
Yeah,
they
and
did.
then it fucking is now in the movie.
Um,
The second time we see Vader.
Oh my god.
redeems
It's so good.
everything.
And it's almost like part of me kind of wishes that they had cut out the conversation part of that scene that we had just talked about and started Vader at this scene.
It would have made more sense in the film.
I feel like it would have been more of an impact.
Yes. I kind of do wish they had just left that scene out altogether. It's an alright scene.
It's an okay.
Dad joke notwithstanding. But yeah, you're right. I like the true essence of like where Vader was supposed to be in this movie was picking right up where he's supposed to at the beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah.
He's chasing down those plants. Literally, and we get this whole new perspective of like when Leia is trying to tell him, I was on a diplomatic mission. Bitch, I just saw you leave a battle fleet. But, and people have been joking about this, they did, however, they worked in, it was very fast and just so that they could probably have just a little bit, enough there for an excuse. But you see 2 or 3 more, like, identical clones of those ships in that fight.
Yeah.
Which means that it was a very common vessel on Alderaan, so that she picked a very common vessel from Alderaan specifically so that she could just kind of blast out of a fight zone and just be like, what are you talking about? I was on a diplomatic mission.
I wasn't there. What are you talking about?
You didn't see these shit. Did you actually get like a confirmation code from the ship? No, because it was during a battle, so you wouldn't have gotten that. You don't know that my ship was specifically there. So that's what's going on with that, because they actually do one scene where one of those ships gets away, and like for a second I thought that was hers and that's how it was going to go down. And then that last scene happens and I'm like, no, hers was hidden aboard.
It is quite literally handing off the plans to her.
Yeah.
And so Vader comes in, he boards the ship in this dark hallway where it's filled with rebel soldiers. I guess technically they're not rebel. They're Alderaan
they're all Alderaanian soldiers. Probably all of them who are on board Leia's ship though
are handpicked for the rebellion.
Yeah.
And Vader comes on and he force throws all of these guys, and like you get to see his power.
My favorite is that he picks the guy up, throws him into the ceiling, and then just kind of casually, as the dude like is falling afterward, just cuts him in half with his lightsaber like on an upstroke.
It was pretty much everything you wanted in a Darth Vader scene.
And it only took like 30 seconds. It was
literally
amazing.
And it was you got to see because it literally runs. The end of this movie is literally hours or days before he catches Leia. I've read days. I think it's hours.
It's got to be hours. No, I think people are totally wrong on the days thing. No, I think that they managed to get the jump into hyperspace, so Vader's got to get back onto his ship and track them down. But they can probably do that within a matter of like 12 to 18 hours.
Yeah, so it's within hours of him catching Leia. And you get to see the reason that the Emperor keeps him around.
Yeah. And you get to Vader's always this like very mythical, scary being, and everyone kind of knows like, oh, you don't screw with Vader. And this shows you why. Like he looks like a demon coming out of the darkness to steal your soul. Anybody.
If you didn't know Jedis in the beginning, and all these people never knew, more than likely they didn't know a Jedi.
Most of them had been killed by the time that they were doing things.
Yeah, so seeing a guy with a lightsaber coming at you and throwing your friend across the room without even touching him.
Horrifying.
It was very scary. It was very awesome.
Yeah, no,
awesome.
They hit the notes with Vader perfectly there.
Didn't overuse him. Didn't keep him as this thing that was constantly around. No, he made I personally would have liked to keep him at the very end for that dramatic entrance. But with what we had, I thought it was good.
Yeah, no, it was ultimately fine. There was one thing that kind of made you cringe, and then you moved on with your life, and it was fine.
Exactly.
Storyline-wise, they plugged every fucking hole in New Hope.
They did.
Okay, so, and actually, if you go back and watch A New Hope, especially after watching this one, it becomes very obvious that a lot of the old jokes about the Death Star blowing up really weren't what we thought. Like there was just a lot of misunderstanding of what was happening. Because for people being like, well, how did one shot get all the way to the reactor, and why did it?
Because they set it up.
Set it up that way. And actually, it wasn't that. The thing that everyone misses is the torpedo does not go all the way down to the reactor. It causes a pressure buildup, which backfires all the way back to the reactor.
Right. It's a very. We get to see the inside. We get to see that mission. We get to see the plans. We get to see what happened behind the scenes. If you're just watching the originals, from what we had seen before this movie came out, we only knew what propaganda told us. We only knew what they had plans for. The people who received the plans had no idea about Jin's father and all of that stuff and all of that behind stuff. We didn't know that.
That's just beautiful about
this.
So
it's perfect.
Yeah. Nobody who really has a good set of details as to what happened and how these plans were gotten lives to tell about it. That's why there's so much mystery surrounding it. Anyone who knows any better, dead.
Yeah.
Deadsies. Which is what I was saying before, like they didn't wimp out, because that's how the story should go. Because the only thing that we ever did know was that the Bothans were impressed by the fact that it happened the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
And because then the second time around, which a lot of people were making Bothan jokes right when this movie was announced, being confused about the time period. Bothans were the species who are classically known for having a spy network who sort of just serve whoever they feel like is winning whatever conflict.
Right.
And at Return of the Jedi, they felt like the Rebellion had a good enough chance and just didn't like the Empire enough that they decided to go ahead and get plans for the second Death Star. And we know from like later readings in like the original extended universe that they were impressed that it was pulled off at all the first time around, because they had a fucking hell of a time actually getting those plans the second time. So that's all we know. So if the Bothans are impressed by it, nobody should survive that first time. And nobody did. And nobody did. Beautiful. And it wasn't quite like the she's dying as she hands them off to Leia thing, but it was damn close. And what they came up with was spectacular, because you get to watch the Death Star get used twice in this, not at full power, so it doesn't destroy the planet, but it just sort of glasses one half of it.
But it makes it even scarier weapon.
Yeah.
Because, okay, great, you blew up an entire planet, but that means you can hold an entire planet hostage and blow up specific cities. You don't have to sacrifice an entire planet's worth of resources. You can just blow up the capital and be done with it and cause enough chaos that it becomes a much more multifaceted weapon than an atomic bomb. It's not just an atomic bomb now. Now it's an entire thing.
Yeah, no,
it's more of a Swiss Army knife.
It still can only do big explosions, but in the grand scheme of things, it can still be scaled back to a point where you're right. You're only it's bigger than a city, because they were well outside of Jeddah and stuff, but it's like a region.
Large, but it's a region.
It's like Texas, basically. Like it would glass Texas on its lowest setting.
Absolutely.
But when you're trying to hold a whole world hostage, that's fucking
all you really
useful.
Need. And they don't talk about that in the originals. It's all or nothing. And then when they it's not the Death Star. It looks like the Death Star. It works like the Death Star. But in Force Awakens.
Star Killer
Base. Yeah. Star Killer Base.
Fucking big ass Death Star. Fuck you.
Also, yeah, it blows up more than just one planet. It blows up entire systems. So to see it on such a minor scale, even as a test, makes it that much scarier. That it can just loom over this planet and literally hold it hostage, because it can just revolve around this planet. So
yeah, you find out all this information. They plug up all of these holes in this fabulous way. There's so much more context to that. You ever wonder why the Battle of Yavin the Republic seems to have such a small fleet? Because most of them got caught or destroyed in this film. Yeah. And it's beautiful. Like, you actually watch the Rebellion with a fleet worth having. That's actually, like, a sizable group of people. Like, they could potentially do some damage with that many people.
Yep.
And you watch that dwindle down to a handful of cruisers and a bunch of, individual fighters that manage to make the jump to hyperdrive before Darth Vader's Star Destroyer fucking comes into the battle, like literally as ships are trying to warp out, and just crushes them as they try to warp out and like crash into his ship instead.
It's not often that we see the Rebellion lose. We see them obviously on Hoth. They lose. They're leaving. I wouldn't even say lose. They're retreating.
Right.
It's not often that we see the Rebellion get such a big hit.
But at the same time, what was cool about it is that they still do win.
They still do
win.
We watch
them win. Like, this is like the Rebellion's first real victory of any kind, which they say in A New Hope. The Rebellion has just won its first major victory. And it's just like watching that scroll again, it's like, God damn, this movie's like A New Hope has some weight to it now. That was not there before.
It does. And I think with Rogue One, like, you get the feeling of how ragtag kind of group. Like, it's very much like American Revolutionary War kind of thing. Like, they're organized, but they're not quite organized.
And
they
even
have
in the
resources,
organization,
but not
there's
really.
a lot of disagreements because
Yes.
there's nobody directly in charge of anything.
Yes, and they're very, like, I hate to say the word terrorist,
Oh, but they are.
but they are. Like, you get rebels, but you get rebels.
Well, I mean, okay, so the majority of the rebels really weren't necessarily like what's his was definitely a rebel, and then oh god, I'm forgetting everybody's name, but so the Han Solo type in the film was kind of terroristic, but
Yes.
more just like black
Cassian.
ops, not a great dude kind of guy.
Very, very, very chaotic.
But then there was the guy who had like branched off from the rebellion, who they called an extremist. He was straight up a terrorist.
Yeah, straight up terrorist.
Straight up a terrorist. Also, possibly one of my favorite characters in the film.
Yeah.
Salieri, is that what? I've only watched the movie twice, so sorry for not remembering all the names.
Saw
here,
Gerrera.
Saw Gerrera.
Forrest Whitaker's character, who had the Darth Vader breathing, and he did it the first time, and we all went, and then they didn't like do anything. We're like, is that a thing?
Actually, it was
Is that a thing?
interesting. What I noticed the second time around is that every time he pulled off of that mask, he would suddenly like not say anything for a little bit and get kind of glazy-eyed. So we're expected to think that he, because of his injuries and stuff, he's like he needs to be able to get oxygen to just like breathe right, because he's not getting quite enough of it, so he takes like a bigger hit of oxygen.
Right.
I think that there might be some spice or like other opiatic painkillers in that as well, because I think he takes a hit of that and like kind of is just like, which oxygen will do that to you to a certain extent as well. So they may have just been playing that angle of it, that he gets like the oxygen rush. But if you're deprivated from oxygen, that's not going to have the same effect on you.
Right.
I think that there actually may have been like some kind of meta, especially like when that planet gets glassed and he stays behind to get killed in the explosion, he rips off the ventilator.
Right.
Like as though like, no, I shall not numb myself to this. I shall experience everything to my last. So I think that there was just kind of this whole context of like, there's a lot of heavy drugs pouring through that ventilator that he is breathing in to just keep himself
alive.
out of enough
Because
pain.
he's more machine than man, quite literally. Like,
Yeah.
We joke about Vader being mostly machine, but this guy shows what Vader is
Without all
of
the
the
resources that the
Yes.
Empire has to offer.
Exactly. He's very much the opposite end of Vader, but still reflecting what Vader is, or is working to be, I guess. Because we do see Vader outside of the suit in this.
No, and
which is
actually,
interesting.
But you're right. He is a great counterpart to Vader because he is working against the Empire, but going to lengths not dissimilar to what Vader went through ultimately to secure the galaxy in his eyes.
Right. Like if you were gonna say that the Empire itself is, Vader and the Emperor on the very far right. The Empire is slightly more in the, more right, but in the middle. And then you've got the Rebellion on the left, and then you've got this guy on the far left, like extremist left. On this scale it's very much showing that you can be extremist and still be. This movie very much showed they're bad guys, but so are the Rebellion.
Yeah.
Like there's no good guys in this if you watch
Right,
it.
no, that's the beautiful part about it, is that nobody is a totally 100% redeemable character.
Right, because the first time we meet Cassian, he kills a guy.
Yeah.
Just to get away.
And yeah, no, not in like a like, oh, it really had to be done, in a like, you might have been able to find another solution to that, dude.
But
like,
I just
you
killed him.
totally just
Yeah.
took like the easiest course, like easiest path out.
So that he didn't get caught. So yeah, but this group of rebels is. I do want to talk about, before we get into the rebels, I want to talk about Galen Erso, who is played by Mads Mikkelsen, who's Hannibal in the TV show that got canceled, which is really sad.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
He is so good.
He's.
And I am so glad he's in the now nerdy world, because he was in Doctor Strange, and we kind of talked about him in that, and he's in this, and I love that he's become this franchise, and Disney's
I just love that he
joining
had
the
a
crew.
full bottle of vodka during an interview for
Yes, and he looks so tired.
He was just so
He's just so done with everything. But he was so good.
He was
so good.
He was spectacular. I mean, the acting in this in general was just really good. He was good, and then specifically watching him and director Carrig play off of each other. Holy shit. He played Jyn Orso's father, who was also the head engineer for the Death Star, the one who sabotages it.
Yes. And seeing him and his, counterpart, you see the old relationship. And obviously they flash back to the old relationship as well.
Very, very quickly. You see a lot more of it, I think, actually, just through the way that they play themselves,
the way that they
honestly
talk to each other.
Yeah.
It's very much you went your way, I went mine. This is my job. And I'm going to do it however I need to. Sorry, I have to kill your wife. kind of thing.
No, the first scene where he tries to say that his wife and Jyn didn't survive or whatever.
Right.
And he just kind of, Carrig is so great with he comes up and as much of a fucking sociopath as he is, so he's not really capable of feeling sorry for as much sorrow as he probably can feel. Right. He is genuinely sorry he doesn't believe him, but it's kind of the thing of
the possibility.
If that's actually true, I'm very sorry for what I'm about to do. Guys, search the place.
Exactly. He doesn't believe the story for a second, but if there's a single % chance that it's true,
he apologizes first.
He apologizes
because he
first.
actually is
he knew that.
I really hope that I'm right about this because I'm gonna feel bad in a minute if she's actually dead.
Yeah, exactly. And lo and behold, he was right.
Nah, but he knew his friend. He knew his friend couldn't lie for shit.
Exactly.
And he, or at least at that point in time, he learned to lie.
Well, there was I'm assuming there was a reason that he got military status and, Urso did not. That he was an engineer. There's a different kind of personality there. So we've got them, who amazing. I really enjoyed them. And then you've got the new crew. You've got Jyn.
Well, the crew for this mission.
The original crew. I guess original crew? Crew
okay, let's not get into the
0.1?
prequel of sequels, all right?
Because it is a pre-sequel. We'll go Borderlands.
Anthology film,
we'll go
people.
Borderlands,
Learn the
pre-sequel.
word anthology. It's going to be important here in the next 10 years.
Yeah. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff.
Well, I mean, not only that, but with how well this is going, and technically what we're watching in the Harry Potter universe are anthology films. It's an anthology new series, but it's an anthology series to the original series.
The originals. So we have Jyn Erso, who's Felicity Jones. They play all of the scenes that were in the trailer for her. Of I rebel and I'm this rebellious thief and I don't give a shit.
Yeah, very carefully edited.
They very carefully edited out. I was a little disappointed. I think if anything, her character's arc fell a little flat.
Yeah, and to be honest, her character motivations were a little rushed. You ultimately saw her getting to the places that she got, but you felt like there should have been a little more time. To be perfectly honest, this could have been 2 movies.
Oh yeah.
This very easily could have been 2 movies. You end the first one after her father dies.
Yes.
And then you do the second movie, which is the actual mission and shit. But they weren't going to greenlight that. They needed to just kind of do this and get it done with and everything.
Not another series.
I understand.
But she gets a story arc quite like Han Solo. Han Solo begins the original trilogy as this selfish thief. He's a smuggler. Selfish smuggler, doesn't give a shit about anybody but Chewie. And they fly through the galaxy and steal shit and deal with really bad people. And then he leaves. He's Luke's like, oh, are you going to help us? And he's like, hell no, I got money. I'm out of here. Peace. And then he's like, oh shit, I actually care about these people and I should probably do what's right. And he comes back and he redeems himself. That was what we were supposed to get with Jyn. I feel it wasn't gonna be the oh shit I should help these people. It was more of a my father's involved and oh look it actually is a better cause.
Yeah, no, I mean because
she
resisted the cause for so long because it brought her nothing but trouble.
Right.
And people had abandoned her and she had lost people because of it. But in the last moments she did kind of she first watched what the weapon could do.
And then she watched what her father did to it.
And and what he went through to make sure that they could destroy it.
Right.
And so she eventually, got on board.
But I feel like there wasn't enough resistance in the beginning to make it an impact.
Yeah, of
a turn.
They really tried with her in the scene with I'm forgetting his name now.
Cassian.
No,
Saw.
Saw, yeah.
Yes.
Because she explains about how the rebellion has brought her nothing but trouble.
Yes.
But yeah, they go through it very, very quickly.
It's very quick. And she becomes very drinking the Kool-Aid's not the right. No, yeah, she drinks the
Kool-Aid. No, it's
Kool-Aid.
totally the right. That's exactly the right terminology, I feel like.
She drinks the Kool-Aid.
I think it's Kool-Aid worth drinking, don't get me wrong, but
yes.
it's totally drinking the Kool-Aid.
But then she meets these new characters. K2SO.
Oh my god. Again, this is Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk's character, the droid, the Imperial droid. So we get an Imperial... Okay, so obviously the droids don't have... They have sentience, but they don't, like... You can program them to be anything, obviously. Because he gets reprogrammed from an Imperial droid for the rebellion cause. But we get to see him... We get to see that small moments of, like, I could just kill you. Or...
Yeah.
There's no Asimov's laws in this universe.
Right, no.
There's not. So you get the...
So there's a hint of it in that whenever you reprogram the personality of a droid, there's weird quirks that happen. You can never do it perfectly. Like, you program a droid's personality in the software one time, and if you ever try to alter from that, it will never do what you want it to do ultimately.
Exactly. So he still has these tendencies. I kind of chalked it up to, we get R2's sarcasm, as much as you can get sarcasm from Beeps. But you totally can, because let's face it, he's sarcastic.
R2's one of the most sarcastic bitches in the entire fucking original thing. Like,
you get R2's attitude, you get 3PO's lack of tact, and you get Chewie's skills.
The way I had put it, I know your fiance has played the KOTOR games,
yes,
but
I have not.
You've not. Okay. Have you heard any of the lines from the HK droid in those games?
I haven't.
Okay, because K2 is 100% like the love child between C-3PO and HK-47.
Yes.
HK-47 from the Knights of the Old Republic games is an assassin droid who refers to humans as meatbags.
Yeah, so yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah. No, it is just C-3PO and him put together in one hysterical fucking droid. Like, that was the thing. Like, I know, like, a lot of people were very, like, put off by some of the comedy, but it was so right coming from this droid. Like, this droid...
Perfect.
Minus the line the captain told me I had to. I hated that line.
Yeah.
Hated that line.
Yeah.
But then you continue. You always surprise me, Jin Orso.
Yes.
Was beautiful. That.
I loved his and Jin's relationship because it was very much like, I could just shoot you now, or I could just shoot. Like, they had no qualms with. There was no like, oh hey, nice to meet you, blah blah blah. It was very much starting off on distrust kind of relationship of like, you're an Imperial droid, what the fuck, and like, you get to come along, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, she gets a pistol. Why don't I get a pistol?
And more importantly, like, why are you giving her a pistol? The odds of her actually betraying us in this circumstances, like, we captured her. Because that's the thing. The reason she gets involved is the rebellion. She was already in a Imperial war camp under a fake name. They figured out who she actually was. And rescue her.
It started off as a rescue until she fought back.
And then, and even so, like,
she rejected that rescue very hard.
Yeah, and even if she hadn't, it was definitely still a hostage situation by the time she was sitting in that room.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the relationship is very interesting, and then you've got people like Cassian, who we've talked about, who is slimebally, and then kind of redeems himself. He goes through a redemption arc, and it's very interesting. I do have to say, like, out of all the death scenes, like, everybody's death scenes, it was interesting. It was very interesting. And his and Jin's final scene of them just sitting on the beach, I liked it. I didn't get a romantic vibe out of it.
Oh, I totally did.
See, I didn't get a romantic vibe. I got this is the last moments.
I mean,
we're gonna be
I guess
living
that's a way you can take it. I just always...
I tried to ignore any sort of romantic vibe.
If you ignore it, it's fine. But part of the problem was that they clearly hadn't written the characters that way, and then some jackass of a producer was like, but where's the love story?
Where's the love story?
And so the way that they shoehorned it in was basically through blocking, which was a little bit of this, and then them just literally being 3 inches from each other's faces, like half of that fucking movie.
And I think my fiance said the most. It was very much a hit 'em or fuck 'em kind of
right.
situation.
Yeah, no, that was exactly like. Are you two gonna fight or fuck or both?
Or what is gonna go? Because they did hint at it, but And I wish they hadn't, because there's no reason for it.
No, that's the
There's
thing.
no
It was
reason for
super shoehorned.
We knew that they were going to die, and they could have still left that final shot of them embracing on the beach, because it was very much a humanity's, like, oh, we did it. We did it. We succeeded. But oh shit, we're gonna die.
Yeah, like we've sacrificed literally everything for this. No, that would have been fine if they hadn't put the fucker fight thing going on the whole movie.
Yes. And then we've got them. We have the Imperial pilot, who could have. He was useful, and there was a reason for him around. Wasn't really as an impactful as character.
There was nothing going on with his character.
Basically, he defects from the Empire and is like, oh, I have information. He's good he's a tool. Like he's used as like a toolbox. Not like tool,
and
like
he's
a
very
jackass.
effective in that regard.
Yes.
But again, he's not a super interesting character.
No.
But he's got a couple of fun moments.
He does. And then you've got the two fighters.
Yes.
You've got
the best.
You've got Baze, who carries this. What is it? It's a chain gun laser rifle.
It's a repeating blaster.
A repeating blaster, which is phenomenal.
Yes.
He becomes the tank in this group. And then you've got his partner, Chirrut, which I think I pronounced that wrong. Who's the blind martial artist.
What's the actor's actual name?
Donnie Yen.
Donnie Yen, actually, I believe, I don't know what style of Kung Fu, but I believe he's a Kung Fu master.
I'm sure he is.
And,
that would be smart.
well, I just don't know if it's that or if it's another martial art that he specializes in. But regardless, he's looked into a lot of different disciplines throughout his life. He's a pretty well-known guy in the martial arts community. And for this film, he decided to rework things. Like, not that you can, like, a lot of martial arts has been explored and there's, like, a lot of, like, basics, but he boiled things back down to the basics of, like, strikes at certain points, blocks at certain points, holds and throws, and sort of reworked the way that they styled into each other and, like, the way that he So, if you were having a hard time identifying, like, what influences were supposed to be there, like, in his fighting style and stuff, that's because, like, he really mixed it up, and he worked very hard to rebuild from the ground up, which I think you saw because I've never, ever seen a fighting style that has looked so simultaneously crisp and sloppy.
Oh, yeah.
It was so weird.
It was really cool, though. It was really cool.
Was beautiful. It was fascinating to watch.
And if you had thrown in, okay, so first off, a little bit of trivia. He, when he was a teenager, his parents sent him to Beijing to train under the same guy who coached Jet Li. First off. But you get the sense that this guy obviously is more than what he's putting off. That's the point. But he's the one that talks about the crystal around Jin's neck, which we are led to believe is a lightsaber crystal.
Well, it is.
And it is. Which I wish they had touched. Like,
well, yeah,
there was such this little point. You're like, where'd you get it? Where'd you get it?
They reveal the fact that the lightsaber crystals are basically what power the Death Star. Which, for the record, beautiful little extra stab to the death of the Jedi. Like, we're gonna take your weapon of defense and turn it into a tool of darkness.
Yes. And it's phenomenal.
It's great.
And he recognizes it, and just the way because he fights with a staff, and the way he fights, you could easily add lightsabers to it.
Oh yeah, no, this guy would have definitely been. He would have
definitely
if he'd been found
Jedi.
Young enough, he would have been accepted as a Padawan, and he would have been one of the greatest Guardians ever.
Absolutely. And so just the fighting, being able to see. I think what I liked most about Rogue One was that we got to see the Asian influence on Star Wars that we haven't been able to see ever. Because even 7, that we could have seen a little bit of it. This one, you get to see the Asian influence that George Lucas actually took it from.
Well, right, because the whole thing's based off of a Japanese fable.
Yes. So the fact that we get to see these two Asian actors, and specifically this one guy, pull in martial arts.
Very cool. Also with him, he has this mantra that he always says.
Yes.
I am one with the Force is with me. And he says it. And we get to watch the confirmation of the Force plot shield that has been taking place, that has been the cause of Imperial troopers not being able to hit shit since A New Hope.
Yep.
We've actually watched it. It has been confirmed through this film. Yes, every time a stormtrooper misses, they should have hit, and it was the Force. Because we watch him walk through a hail of stormtrooper gunfire, and they were hitting. That's one of the first things you notice with this movie. Stormtroopers hit shit.
Oh, yeah.
Almost right away, you notice that they actually are hitting everything they're aiming at. And then he grabs his stick, closes his eyes, which for being blind seems a little redundant, but hey.
You know. Well, that may show that he hasn't been blind all his life.
Yeah, no, I mean.
But yes.
It also just a natural reflex from the actor, and it felt right in the moment. And I'm sure probably at 3 a.m. or whenever they shot that scene, it didn't seem to matter at that point.
Exactly.
Anyway, point being is that he closes his eyes, grabs his stick. I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. I am one with the Force is with me. And walks to this council that needs to be hit so that they can communicate with the Rebel fleet, who's in orbit, but is blocked off with this fucking gigantic worldwide shield.
Yes.
And they need to send a signal through so that they know that, like, hey, if you take the shield down, we can transmit you plans to the fucking Death Star. And so he does, and literally, it's like probably like 100 yards.
Yeah,
he just walks through this gunfire and isn't hit by anybody. Not one person can, and then he completes his task. And actually, it's beautifully done so that it's not comedic at all. But the end of this film is very reminiscent of the end of Blues Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Where everything, as soon as it doesn't serve a purpose anymore, You're falls gone. The fuck apart.
Yep.
Like, that is how everybody in the actual, like, Rogue One group, like, winds up dying.
It's a very kill your darlings kind of ending.
Yes. As soon as their usefulness has run up, the Force lets them go.
Yes. It's very much a kill your darlings kind of moment. As soon as you're done with your plot, you're done. You don't live, you don't do anything, you're done. You pass on the story to the next person, who then passes on to the next person, who passes on to the next person, who passes on to Leia, and then, hey, look at, we got a movie.
Also, during the last battle is cinematically
one
of the best things I've seen in a while. Not only just from like a visually interesting standpoint, the small things that were taking place in that battle were okay. So first of all, the crew of Rogue One, which is basically what they named like this little attack group that's not even supposed to be going on this fucking mission, that just does anyway against like Rebel Command like orders. First they get there and they have this plan like, okay, we're gonna want to be able to get back out again, so keep the ship running, and like you can still see this hint of like maybe they're going to like do it and then get back out. Mm-hmm. Where I knew that Disney was actually going to like go through with shit was when they first like get caught and like they close off like the space gate and everything. All talk about them leaving stops entirely, with the exception of the pilot talking to some of the grunt soldiers. He is still talking to them as though they're going to get off of the planet. Yeah. But he is the only one, and he doesn't talk to the other guys. Everybody in like the main group of Rogue One is just immediately aware at that point, we're going to die here.
Yeah, there's a very clear... And the pilot assumes that, hey, I can get out because, you know, I'm still on the ship or whatever. Or he's telling the soldiers
he's just telling that. See, this is the thing.
I think continue fighting.
Yes, I think that's what it is. I don't think because when he tells the soldiers, he says, so we can get off. But he never mentions getting off to the other guys.
Right.
So I think it's just a matter of, like, he knows that he's not going to be able to convince a soldier to just fight to his death. But he can convince the soldier, hey, if we want to get out of here, you got to do that thing.
Yeah.
You're not going to survive the mission that I'm giving you right here, so I'm not worried about it.
Right, it's very much especially the main three that get into the base, there is a distinct moment where they realize that they're not going to survive. And that's the realization that they need to continue, and then they each have their own individual realization of this is the moment.
And it's just so well done.
It's very well done. For killing off an entire cast,
it's beautiful.
It's very well done. Not many movies have handled it. to massacre your entire...
The actual assault, like what the movie builds around, the assault on like this database that the Empire has, all of these files that are not on like the main like internet web hub that have to be like kind of kept offline for security reasons. You know, that assault in many regards is maybe not quite on the same level, but close to the same quality of movies like Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah.
Like it's to the level of how well like story plot arcs are thought out and how they interconnect and how far again somebody needs to go before they're allowed to like just kind of like, all right, they're done. Is beautiful. It's beautiful. And they also push a Star Destroyer into another Star Destroyer.
It's pretty great.
Oh my
It's pretty
God,
great.
yes.
I think a lot of the aerial fighting is top notch. Like Star Wars is known for that. That's what you're known for. That's what that
George Lucas could do one thing right. It was choreograph a dogfight.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the fact that they used clips from the original movie in this that they didn't get to, so they used stuff that they didn't get to use in the original movie. Mostly, it's all the fighter pilots. It's all the rebel fighter pilots. Some of which were like older women, and it would have shown it a much more diverse rebellion in the originals. But it's short little clips, but they used it in this one, which I thought was so cool because unless you knew it, like there were certain points where I was like, well, that looks different or that looks kind of familiar. But otherwise, like it was just melded in so perfect.
Yeah, no, they did a really incredible job with it, and they resurrected a motherfucker from the dead.
They did.
Like we've been saying, Governor, I was his name.
Tarkin. Yeah.
Tarkin. I always want to say Tarnak. Tarkin.
Yes. Peter.
Moff Tarkin. They basically they got an actor to kind of like stand in and then do the lines, and they just sort of superimposed Peter Cushing over him, and then just like used voice samples that like and just like cut together him like actually saying the new lines, or just straight repeating lines from the original. You may fire when ready. I don't know about you, but I squeaked a lot on the inside when I heard "You may fire when ready."
Yeah, it was very good.
I also love the distinct difference between director Kierig, like fire, just like wah, and
the calm British.
You may fire when ready.
Yes.
And also the fact that he says when ready, because he learns from the first firing that like when you say fire, there's still like about like a fucking 10-minute ignition process that takes place.
Exactly.
Like, when you are actually ready for this shit, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a big ass weapon. I'll let you do it when you know you can do it.
Which was great because it showed his patience.
Yes. It showed his control, that he actually is very qualified in running this thing.
Oh yeah.
Because he's got the patience. Yeah, he's got the patience to run it and knows that, oh wait, this is the thing that needs to happen. All right. Well, I trust my crew to fire when ready, literally.
Now, as far as the resurrection goes, he's still living in the Uncanny Valley, but he is living on a very high point of the Uncanny Valley, like in a cave where like, maybe he's like working like there isn't I don't even know what things are going to be like in 5 to 10 years. Like, we may, like, just, like, look at people on the screen who have been dead for, like, 15 years, and it's like, they're fucking just there. They're just doing shit.
And I think it was because I knew that they hadn't, for Mon Mothma, they had brought in a different actress that looked just like her. For a little bit, I was like...
Who did they find?
I was like, who did they find that looked like...
Because it actually... now, her fiance argues that he could tell it was CGI the entire time.
He's kind of a nerd, though.
I did not think that was CGI. I thought that it was some dude in really weird makeup.
Again, clone. No, right. Yeah, we thought it was a little bit more
like it was just bad makeup to try to like kind of like put some like CGI points or whatever, like where they needed to, or just like create the illusion because he didn't quite look enough like him. Or actually, I wasn't sure if the guy was dead, so I'm like, maybe they got an actor and then they just had to dress him up, or maybe he is still alive but so old that they tried to make him look younger or something. Yeah. But in either case, I could not tell it was CGI right away. And then I had suspicions when he saw Leia at the end because she wasn't quite as nicely done because she was there for 30 seconds and it was, it's
But fine. It was such a good reveal.
So good.
Leia was a little bit more on the Uncanny Valley. I think her eye... we had talked about this. it wasn't even her eyes necessarily. It was the fact that her skin was too perfect. She was too photoshopped in CGI. She looked like young Carrie Fisher, but too perfect that you knew that she was fake.
When people talk about changelings in old stories being
That
like
was
two
it.
perfect copies of themselves, like that was what it was.
It was like that weird, like, you look like them and you sound like them and you act like them, but my brain doesn't fire on all of those pistons. That
Yep.
It's not believing that you're who you say you are. But the reveal of Leia, like I knew Rogue One, like when they first announced it and they're like, oh, Death Star plans, I was like, do I get Leia? Do I get Leia in like this?
And you know, it was hilarious. We thought that even as we were watching it at the end, like we see like the back of Leia, so we thought that they were just gonna leave it at that and do that like classic, like, oh yeah, the president is here, but we aren't gonna see his face type of thing, so we don't have to try to recreate Reagan or whoever.
Right.
But then they just pan the camera around and she's fucking there, like, you bastards, you made us think that wasn't gonna happen just so it could be even more epic.
Exactly.
Nice.
And like the fact that like as soon as they stopped in that, they showed that hallway, I was like, are we gonna see her? Vader's here, so I get to see her.
And just how well, again, like going back into that, like how well this all just blends back into A New Hope is just unbelievable.
It's absolutely perfect. It absolutely made me want to watch the New Hope.
Yeah, like I don't know if when this thing actually gets to like VHS, wow, DVD or Blu-ray.
Blu-ray, absolutely.
Showing my age.
Yeah.
I still get things on DVD. I'm not even caught up on the fucking Blu-ray shit. Anyway, when that happens, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to prepare I can't just watch Rogue One. If we're gonna do Rogue One,
you have to watch
A New Hope is coming on right after it, and we're doing a fucking 4-hour event here because I wanted to go watch A New Hope as soon as it was done. Like the only reason I think I went to sleep was because like I had like a 35-minute drive back from the theater because the one I go to is a bit far away. Totally worth it for never having to worry about people being there.
Oh yeah.
I don't understand it.
But yeah, the timing of it gets you a little bit of nostalgia because you're like, oh, Vader and ooh, Leia. So you get a little bit of the nostalgia feel, but you get the new, you know the story, you know what's gonna happen, but you still got those moments of like, are they gonna do it? Well, I know they do it, but how do they, like, oh my god, he got shot. When's he gonna die? Oh my god, he came back, you know. Oh, I really like that character, and then I got attached, and then he got killed.
And ultimately, the only thing we do know is that those plans wind up in Leia's hands at the end.
Right.
Like, what was going to happen in between there was up for fucking any... Like, we didn't know which way that story was going to go at any point.
Exactly.
It was great.
So it was very... We knew the stakes, so you knew ultimately what was going to happen. But I think as a standalone story especially... is the beginning of the anthologies. If the rest of the anthologies are anything like this, it's going to be pretty phenomenal.
I cannot wait for the solo anthology.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Because I do want to see how the new kid does.
Yes.
But most importantly, I want to see Childish Gambino as fucking
Lando
Calrissian. Yes. Are you kidding me?
Young
Donald
Lando?
Glover? That was I wouldn't have even thought of him in a million years, to be honest. And then as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh my god, yes.
He's perfect.
Yes.
So we get to see young Lando and young Han just annoy the shit out of each other. It's gonna be great.
So good.
I'm hoping they'll do a little bit of how Han gets involved with Jabba.
Well, I'm hoping he gets to meet Chewie in this.
Yes.
I want him to meet Chewie. I want to know how they hook up because that's gotta be a story.
Even if it's at the end or however they do it, they gotta have involve it somehow.
Because you also get the impression that at some point Chewie was kicked off of Kashyyyk.
Oh yeah.
So I would love to know like exactly what goes down. Like, did he actually use his claws on somebody when he shouldn't have, or was he just being an asshole in general and they just kind of like get the fuck out of here?
Right. Or did he just leave because he didn't want to be there?
Who knows? I mean, he was, I guess, a general in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Because they just had to make that happen.
Yes.
Cringe. Gut wrench.
So yeah, it's very interesting. This movie's also interesting because they pull Rogue One. It's very interesting because they pull in some stuff from the TV shows.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Not a whole lot that you have to watch the TV shows to know. I think it's just Rebels. I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's.
I don't remember what the other.
No, there's some senator from the Clone Wars. I can't remember who, but somebody pointed this out to me.
So you get a little bit of it. Not enough that you have to watch the shows, but just a little bit of like, you do a little bit of Marvel. Of like, hey, this thing's a thing, and if you want to know more about this character, go watch this.
Go wiki that shit.
Yeah. So overall, very strong movie. Way stronger. Again, I went into it being like all the other movies I went into this year of not wanting to get my hopes up because otherwise my hopes are dashed and crushed, and I don't get attached to anybody. Very, very surprised. Very happy with it.
I was just sad. I don't know if it's. I think as a standalone film, it's probably better than Episode 7.
Yes.
I think as far as like in sequence of the film, 7 might still be a little bit stronger.
I think I prefer 7.
But it's pretty.
It's pretty good though.
Pretty on point. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
It would be hard to say like which one of those is just a better movie in general. Like
both have their faults. Both have their strengths. And yeah, this one was definitely a strong movie.
Definitely, yeah. If it's still in theaters by the time you're hearing this, go check it out if you haven't had a chance to. I recommend this one on the big screen. It's so much fun on the big screen. But the story is compelling enough that if you can't really see it until it hits Blu-ray, you're still gonna enjoy it.
Just watch it on a really big TV.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that's going to do it for us. We've almost hit an hour with this one. We're running out of fucking underscore music to do here. But yeah, so this has been the Geek for All. I'm not sure what we're going to be back with in 2 weeks, but I've heard some rumor that we might be getting a visit here in the next couple of months from the professor, our old friend. So we'll see about that, exactly what his situation is. As you recall, he's in some legal troubles at the moment. But anyway, we'll see about all that next week, or in the next couple of weeks here. So anyway, you all have yourselves a great evening.
Night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
The music for the Geek for All show has been provided by Fat Street Beats, Ben Sound, and Purple Planet. Please support their individual pages.